All right, we're live again. We got Jason Dean. What a treat. We get interview you twice within 3 days, man.
I love it. I hope you do.
Yeah, coming from our pedigree of being storytellers and messengers and sharing the secret of chiropractic, doing podcast work is it's fun, right?
It's honestly a blast. I mean, it's as long as you carry a purpose with it and a message. Um, Honestly, you can do this stuff all day. I think it's fun, and by watching you guys do it all the time, I can tell it's fun for you. So it brings out the best in our profession. That's really what the message is, anyway.
Yeah, so you're episode 163.
Oh, nice.
So this is an actual like podcast episode of Cairo Hustle.
Beautiful. It's been a while since I was on a long time ago. We got cut short because just the day was crazy. And so it's nice to be back on for a full blown episode with you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this one. And for those that are watching that don't know that you might be a chiropractor, let's tell people your chiropractic story and what influenced you to become a chiropractor.
I'm a baby chiropractor, so it's funny because Jim, you guys, you and Luke hang out with guys who've been women and men who've been in this industry for decades plus. I'm a baby chiropractor. I just have a loudmouth voice and I'm not afraid to use it. But I actually started off totally in the business world. I have a business degree first before I did anything. And I love marketing. I love sales. I did growing up. I wasn't like a every week or every month chiropractic patient, but my mom did. There was a chiropractor in our town, Little Green, New York, upstate New York, a long time ago. And I remember actually, like, this is kind of embarrassing, but when I was a little kid, there was a lot of stress in my family. And so I kind of picked up on all that. And I think I took some of that stress. That's why sometimes when I cough on camera today, some of that's from my adrenal glands that I'm still working on because they're just in constant, sympathetic mode. And so I have to calm them down. But I was actually a bedwetter when I was young and, stress and everything else, a lot of different things going on. But it carried up to me, like, I think I was like 10 or 12. I know that's kind of embarrassing to say, but I went to bed because of a lot of different things going on. Plus I ate sugar like crazy. But my mom used to take me to the chiropractor. So I used to get adjusted off and on, probably once every couple months at the time. And my mom did the best she could. She worked a couple different jobs, single mom. So, she took me when she could and probably afford it. But so I was actually open to chiropractic right in the beginning. And then obviously went through my life, went into business, and I traveled around the country with what I did for a living, which was in software development, but also in the marketing of sports. So I was in NCAA football, Major League Baseball, NFL, et cetera. And so, but I got really sick because at the time I was doing all that fun stuff, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating well. I definitely wasn't getting adjusted. And I moved from Boston at the time down to Florida, where I live now. And being a very busy professional, I was working like 60, 70 hours a week, which I still do today, but I was doing it then for somebody else. And I didn't have time to date. So I met my wife on Match.com, actually. It was actually the first girl I met on Match. And it was just like magic. And so we were together since that day. It was, let's see, I think it was November of 2005, I recall, if it comes to my head. But she was already a chiropractor. And so actually when I met her, she had just started her practice. And she started in January of 2005. I think we met November of that year. And so I went and saw her practice. She was straight out of school. My wife, it's funny because all the chiropractors out there who think they need to spend a ton of money out of school to build up their practice and make it so people love it. My wife literally started her practice on like $1,000 from her dad, a little laptop, a notebook for scheduling. And she rented one room from another chiropractor. And so that's where I met her. I went to her office on the very first day I met her. I went to her office and saw it. And obviously we became married and everything else. And so I left my job because I hit the corporate kind of ceiling and I couldn't go any farther. And I recognized that. So she said, why don't you come help me in the practice? Because she had just bought her first building. My wife is a genius at this stuff. She just has this flow with the universe, money, et cetera. And she bought a $500,000 practice, a building for her practice. And she just did it. Like she said it was the right thing to do. the people will come. And she already had a little bit of a practice she'd grown. And so I ended up going over with her because I knew business and I worked behind the scenes, but she planted the seed because behind the scenes, I was watching people get better in the practice. And, I'd seen chiropractic before, so I agreed with it. But then I was really seeing the inside of chiropractic, like the vitalism of chiropractic, because she's like, my wife is hardcore vitalistic. So she does chiropractic, nutrition. We practice it together now, obviously. But she just said, like, someday, like, if you want to do this, you could. And literally the first words out of my mouth, which I've changed this thinking now, was basically, well, I'm not smart enough to do that, become a doctor. And she's like, well, that's obviously not true. But she kind of left it alone. And within about a year or so, I made the plunge, and I graduated December 2013 from Palmer, Florida. And so that makes me 7 years in practice. So that's why I say I'm a baby chiropractor, but a combination of nutrition, helping get my health back via my wife, and then always really loving chiropractic. And I said, well, if I'm going to practice this stuff and do clinical nutrition, this chiropractic thing really looks amazing to me. And I believe all the principles of chiropractic. So if I'm going to do like 2 years of nursing or 2 years of like clinical nutrition, why would I not just do the other 2 years and become a doctor where no one can tell me what to do? And so I dove in, I graduated, and to this day now, I really enjoy, I love practicing every day. I love adjusting every day. Like that when you give somebody a first adjustment, like that they've never had before, and you see like their eyes open, like, the power went on, between that and marketing and then being on a camera, like there's nothing more fun than that, man. But that's my chiropractic story, basically.
Well, the really cool thing is now you've become positioned as a chiropractor to share the message of chiropractic to a larger audience, which I like I said, the last interview that we've done is I saw you hockey stick, like, private practice, doing things to do marketing, doing great business. But then you realize that there was a niche that people needed. They needed truth, and they needed a legitimate source for reporting. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that makes you very unique in the marketplace as well, with what you're doing with Revolution Network.
Yeah, it's so my mom. This actually goes back to my mom. So I have amazing parents. They divorced very early on in my life, but my parents are amazing, both sides. And like something rings true for me. What she used to say was like, just tell the truth. And I know that sounds so simple and so obvious, but in this world of what we're going through now, like obviously it's not obvious, but just tell the truth. And so as I continued on, I was looking in the world of healthcare. And it's funny because as I went through chiropractic school, I learned the things in school I needed to learn, but I really learned adjusting. I really learned how to help somebody heal, like in the seminars outside of that, whether it was the Y files with D'Onofrio or all these other amazing doctors out there who really taught you how to really adjust and taught you how to really apply nutrition to somebody. That's where I learned stuff. And so it was fascinating for me, connecting all of this stuff together. And I was like, you know what? People just need to know the truth. Like, we have chiropractic. Like that is the truth of healthcare. If you do not have a free flowing impulse from your brain down to every single cell, the body is not going to work. And so as I looked at this, I was like, we really need to be shouting this from the rooftop. And there's a movie that The Greatest Showman with, I think it's Hugh Jackman, right? And it's so funny because people will say like, oh, what's your favorite movie? And they're waiting for me to give this big, like inspirational, like whether it's a love story or action flick or whatever. And I go, no, like, it's The Greatest Showman. And like, how could it be The Greatest Showman? Because he took something that he truly believed in and he shouted from the rooftop, like what not best to be than like the carnival barker. And most people, we look in today's society as like, that's a bad thing because it's frowned upon. The president of the United States is a carnival barker. Like he's amongst the best. Like no one promotes better than he does. And he says it out loud. He uses social media to do it. And so I think I really early on resonated with, okay, what is the truth? And always dive deeper and deeper and deeper for whatever the truth is. And when I found chiropractic, I mean, before my wife, but then really, really getting to know my wife when we were dating and seeing what she was doing with it. It was kind of the rebirth of it in my mind. And so I really just married my mouth, and I say that in a positive way, with chiropractic, and that's what I do with the show too. I mean, I was telling you that I always want to, no matter what happens with the network, no matter what happens with the show, no matter who I interview, I'm always keeping chiropractic. I'm always keeping nutrition. I'm keeping my loves, the things that I come from. I'm always keeping them right there, because my ultimate goal for this is obviously to teach people what America really is. Like, we all have veterans in our life. We know what people went through to keep this place as free as possible and keep us as safe as possible. But also, the big thing here is we have to change what healthcare is in America. I mean, we have been a medical industrial complex for 100+ years. I mean, as soon as the Rockefellers did what they did and stole it all away from us. But I remember sitting in chiropractic school, and I didn't know the history of chiropractic. That was my first time getting exposed to. I know there's a lot of docs out there who are multi-generational chiropractors, and so they knew the history. They came up through it. I didn't know. So I didn't know chiropractors went to jail for chiropractic. I mean, I mentioned that in the episode we did the other day, I think it was. And, like, I was like, people went to jail because they believed so much in what they did. And it wasn't just like an average thing, that it was chiropractic. Like, they believed in helping people heal their system. So I kind of look at them, and we're not necessarily in a position where we're going to go to jail anymore, because chiropractic is accepted today, but we still can carry on their ideology, their philosophies, just with maybe our mouths, with what we say, what we do, things like that. And we have today, we have free channels here today. Like, you have a computer there, I have a computer here, I have a phone here, you have a phone there. I mean, we have a free opportunity right now, for at least a little while, to preach from the rooftop that we can get people better without drugs and surgery. And it blows my mind that we have 60,000 chiropractors out there. I mean, it doesn't matter how much medical is out there, Jim and Luke, that if we just all turned our phones on and started talking, you would own healthcare tomorrow. I'm sure you guys agree. I mean, that's really what my marrying of, quote unquote, the network and my show to chiropractic is all about, is to, one, get truth out there about our country, to be able to take it back and really own who we are, but also to really push the fact that we are what healthcare is. I mean, man, we save people from medications and surgery. Is there anything more powerful than that? I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in this world, but if you do not have your health, you're essentially screwed. And so we have 320 or 330 million people that we have to get in front of. And this is just my medium of doing it, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I really believe that. I met a guy 5 years ago named John DeMartini.
Yep.
And one of the things he impressed upon me was we needed more media leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke and I were in the midst of making a documentary film on chiropractic. And he had over 200 people in this ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Denver. And I sat there and I waited till everybody went up and got a picture with them. And everybody talked to him. And I sat there as the last person in the room. And I said, hey, Dr. DeMartini, a friend of mine told me I should come to this talk that you just did for the past 2 hours. And I did. And I didn't know you were a chiropractor. But what you said to me was something that really resonated with me, is we need more media leverage. I said, my name's Jim Chester. I'm a very enthusiastic person. I'm making a film on chiropractic. Would you like to be in it? He said, well, I will. And you can come down to the Ritz-Carlton next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Here's my room number, and I'll do an hour interview with you.
Nice.
So as I talk to you today, that's still the message that rings true, is we need more media leverage with chiropractic to get the message out to more people. And that's really what the impetus of Hustle was to add more value to the chiropractic profession. and to really offer a media resource for people to pay attention to so that they could get what you didn't get before you went to school, was the big idea.
Right.
So it all comes in a circular pattern now, to where now we're interviewing you, who has media leverage. and
Yep.
and we're using what you've been able to culminate as a resource as well. And now we are going together. And
Right.
what you said is, if we all start doing this, now we have more momentum for people to actually tap into something that might wake them up.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It's the leveraging of marketing. I mean, that's really what it is. And it's always funny on any interview we do. So everyone knows out there, we usually catch up a little bit before we jump on. So we have a little chat before we go live. I do the same thing with my show. Typically a few minutes of just kind of chatting back and forth. And it's the funny thing about chiropractic is, and I understood this from a marketing standpoint. I never got this from, and so anybody out there, I don't have the same reality that somebody went right from college, was in a chiropractic family, and went right into school, because I didn't do that. So a lot of people start off with the chiropractic philosophy. They go right into the front door of their practice, and that's how they start. They don't have a marketing background or business, whatever it is. And so I came in from a completely different angle. And so I came in from, you're supposed to market things. You're supposed to sell things. You're supposed to talk about things. And it's funny because BJ Palmer was talking about that. I mean, Dee was talking about that. I mean, BJ really promoted that, but BJ was was on radio. I mean, he was preaching from the rooftop how amazing everything was. But yet it's so fascinating, because it's almost like as soon as that died off, and I don't know everyone behind that, if there were other people that jumped on board after BJ, but like we lost that traction, probably because of the whole Wilkes case and the AMA and all that stuff. I'm sure we got like kind of sidelined from a lot of stuff, but this was our way to come back in. And we were talking about that there's 330 million Americans out there, and we still own what? 10%? That's a magic number. I mean, I don't know if that's the number anymore, but the 10% of the population. And everyone says, why don't we have more of the population? Yet we're still doing the same things over and over again, is we're preaching on philosophy. And this is where I rub people the wrong way. And I apologize if I do. This is just me speaking my truth, is not that the philosophy is wrong, because it's not. Obviously, above, down, inside out, the vitalistic chiropractic, specific chiropractic, I can say the words all day long, right? However, people are not looking for vitalistic chiropractic. What they're looking for is, they just hurt their back and they can't go to work. They need money to get to work. They're in pain, right? They have a problem. Now, I'm not saying abandon chiropractic and abandon the philosophy, because I talk about it every day in my practice. But sometimes in the first visit, depending on how they're coming in, if I had a guy come in 2 weeks ago who had a hot disc, like he could barely stand. I did not preach to him about vitalistic chiropractic right from the start. I have to get this guy at least out of pain, or where he can actually walk without assistance of me and his wife. And then once I get him on my side and he's out of pain and we're a week or so into this, now I start preaching on what chiropractic is all about, and the fact that it's really not for the pain. Yeah, we totally handled that subluxation. The disc is not where it was before. It's going to start healing. We're going to do some other things, but we're going to get your body back to where it's supposed to be. He's happy. And now I can say, yeah, so let's educate you on real chiropractic. Like, yeah, you know what? Your C1 is also out, or this vertebrae is out. Like, and if this is out, that brain is not communicating to that cell. But now he's open to it. Or now his wife is open to it. Now his wife's like, yeah, I've had this problem for a while. Now she's in. So you went from not knowing anything about chiropractic to now you have an entire family coming in. And that, to me, that's like phenomenal. But it's not abandoning our principles. It's knowing when to insert them. I guess, if that makes sense. It's knowing when to slide in that education, because yes, everyone in the office gets that education, but not always first. Now, if we turned it around and we started bringing people in from different categories that way, but then we preached about it once they started feeling better, then I think we actually see more of the population, and hopefully that's something we see going forward. But again, that's going to take some more marketing and more sales, honestly, in teaching chiropractors, but that's not taught in the schools right now. So if anybody out there has connections in schools, let us know. We'll put something together and make that happen for the students. But that's where I come from. And again, sometimes I step on toes with that, but that's just my reality and my truth on it.
Yeah, going back to The Greatest Showman and media leverage, Jim and I were actually walking out of the movie, and Jim said that there should be a musical on the Palmers.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That'd be great. I'd watch it.
I want to call it Palmerland.
It's so true. It's there's definitely some drama, right? Totally. I agree.
So I see your obsessed bumper sticker in the background.
Yes.
Do you have any other favorite like mantras or quotes or words of wisdom that just resonate with you?
Probably the two, and I'm gonna have to paraphrase them because I don't know them off the top of my head, as in like, just preaching them. But one is definitely the Steve Jobs thing, is basically the ones who are crazy, the ones who are going to change the world are the crazy ones, but they're going to change the world. And however that goes, I don't remember it all, but that one. But also another one is, and I think this was actually Richard Branson, which was basically, and I honestly, in the last month and a half, 2 months, this is the one I probably jumped into the most, is if someone like offers you an opportunity and you don't know how to do it, accept it first and figure it out later. I mean, like, there are so many people out there who won't take opportunities because either they don't know how to do it, they're not quite sure about themselves, they don't have the confidence. And let me tell you, your confidence will skyrocket when you have to perform. That, like, just jump into something. And I think the greats do that, whether it's the greats in business or the greats in chiropractic, the greats anywhere, is there's a whole lot of committing to stuff before you're even ready, because that's how you learn. I mean, I would love to dive deeper into this if someone knows how this happened. But I mean, BJ Palmer, did he know how to do radio? Probably not necessarily. I mean, I've been offered to do some radio stuff locally, which I'll probably do in the next couple months. And people ask me, have you done radio? No. Well, you want to do it? Sure. So how are you going to do it? I don't know. I'm going to show up at the studio. They're going to probably give me a little template and I will figure out how to talk. But I can tell you that I can talk for an hour or 2 hours straight on my own. So if you give me probably 4 10-minute segments, I'll probably be okay. And I'll probably have to shut myself up. But the whole point is, especially in chiropractic too, is if you're given an opportunity there's an opportunity out there, commit first and figure it out later. I mean, I am surrounded right now by lights, monitors, an HD camera, a microphone. And if I told you I knew how to do this, even, some of this stuff I've had 2 years, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to operate a podcast mic 2 years ago until I do now. I have it up to an amplifier, and then we throw an HD camera in here. I didn't know how to operate that thing. Like, I know technology, but I don't know the ins and outs, but I just did it and then got some help with it. Next thing you know, like, you become an expert in a day, and now you're like rocking and rolling. So whatever it is, whether it's diving into the actual profession of chiropractic and adjusting people, or it's the marketing of it, or the sales of it, or just the media, like, just dive in and you'll figure it out later. And trust me, you won't die. Like, that's what I think most people are scared to death of. What if I die? What if I screw up? We all screw up. I mean, the first time speaking on stage, like, we all like have our jitters, but you get up there, you perform, and it's never as bad as you think it is. But really, to all the people out there, chiropractors especially, that is how we actually change the world. So we have to take those opportunities. But that's the long answer on those mantras, Luke.
So how do you think the world would change if everyone was under consistent chiropractic care?
That's a great question. I don't even know what that would look like. That's so. I think that we would have a different world. I think that a lot of people think that we'll have a utopia and, oh my gosh, everyone will be perfect and everything. No, because we're always going to have, I think, we're always going to have human nature. So there'll always be problems on planet Earth, obviously. But my biggest focus on that would be not necessarily everybody. My biggest focus on that, man, if we can focus on the kids, if we got every kid a spinal check after they were born, or at least within, say, the first couple weeks or first months of being born, that alone would change the world. I mean, I almost wish, and I know the Tony Ebels of the world, and there's a couple others, Skip Weiss out there, like, who are really, really good in the pediatric practices. I always say, man, if we all could adjust kids all day long and still make the same revenue we do, which is probably still possible, adjusting kids is probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever experienced. I mean, I just had a little one come in the other day. It was 2 weeks old. And like, when you get to put your hands on a little baby, knowing that you're starting them off right, I mean, much less than the 7 or 9 billion people on planet Earth. But if we could get even just all the kids under chiropractic care, I think the whole world shifts completely. And then you see a massive shift. We might actually probably destroy an economy, because all the medicine would fall and chiropractic would rise. But a reality, it's weird to see all the people on planet Earth, but man, I would love, I mean, I really resonate with seeing all the kids on planet Earth be adjusted. And I think if you do that, then you win, because ultimately those are the ones who you educate, and then they teach their kids and they teach their kids. And that's an amazing world right there.
Yeah, I think the generational idea that we can make an impact on the youth movement, I think that a lot of marketing looks to that angle. How can we get kids to be prescribed medication earlier? How can we make them, how many can we actually get a kid to have to be on and turn them into consumers? Because now we've had to have them as a consumer for life. Well, we need to look at that from the chiropractic angle too. What you're saying is, how can we turn people into healthier versions of themselves and make them chiropractic consumers for the rest of their life, which is not bad business. It's really smart business, but it also has a great outcome, which is a healthier society and a healthier culture and less propensity on outside in source. So I've always thought that the more that we can start getting kids into offices, the better. And I really do admire that vision, because I think so many times people wait till they're 40 years old and they have a blown disc, or they, were T-boned, and the next thing they know, you're coming in to see you, and you're like, dude, what do you expect me to do? Like, wave a magic wand and all of a sudden, like, after 2 adjustments, like, your life's back to hunky dory?
Right.
No, you've neglected yourself for 40 years, and now you come in here with this like, hot button, like, I'm broken. Can you fix me? Yeah, I can fix you. But what if we change the narrative to that person? Now they were under, consistent care from cradle to 40, and now they get in that T-bone accident, or they had a slip and fall incident. Now their body's going to respond and heal faster. And they didn't go down the rabbit hole, the medical industry, saying, hey, what can you throw at me? You have some muscle relaxers? Throw it at me, boss. You got an injection? Throw it at me, boss. Now they're like saying, hey, I've been adjusted since I was a baby. I'm going to go see my chiropractor. They're going to shoot some new x-rays on me and see what's going on, to where now I can rest and heal and recover quicker. And I didn't go down this other path.
Completely agree, 100%. I mean, it's actually funny, because the best example I can give of that is there's a couple of kids in practice that are very much like that in our practice, that I see. I'm sure my wife has her own as well, but they come in and they expect to be adjusted. Like, if they're in the office, they're like, well, I'm here to be adjusted. And then honestly, my daughter, my daughter is learning to ride her bike right now. She's on training wheels, but she's starting to get really fast, to the point where the training wheels are gonna have to come off, because I don't want them to actually mess her up. But she's 6. She's been adjusted from the very beginning. And quite honestly, in the beginning, she was not freaked out by it, but it was different to her. I mean, even though we adjusted her all the time, she had to get used to it. Now, she was on the couch the other night, and she was doing her little gymnastic stuff, and she tumbled a little bit. And you know what? She didn't hurt herself, but she got it on her butt. She laughed. And the first thing she said was, I better get an adjustment. Now, I don't push it on her. I say, hey, we should get adjusted this week. I never pushed it on her. We just educated her about it. Her and her mom and I just say, we're chiropractors, so we can adjust you. We don't kind of go the way normal does in society. We're a little different. You get taken care of. We don't worry about COVID-19. We don't worry about all this different stuff, to the point where she knows it works so well that either we're in the office and she goes, hey, can I get adjusted? She jumps up on my table. I adjust her real quick and she's done. Or she falls on her butt and she it's like subconscious now. She says, oh, I got to get adjusted. Now, imagine that with every kid, because keep in mind, kids are really smart. They're very intuitive. That's why, like, I think we call them, God's children, because they're still really, really innately connected when they're babies and when they're little kids. So if you can get them out the gate and teach them, and they get that first adjustment, and a kid knows when that adjustment works. A kid knows when they feel better. They know when that nervous system is firing. Once you do that a couple times, they're in. You have marketed and sold them on chiropractic, but not because you needed to sell them, but because they knew what it did for them.
It's just like watching my buddy Jay Comerick take care of a horse.
Yep.
Like, you can see the physiological response to it, and the horse can't talk.
Right. That horse will chase after him, not in a bad way, but because that horse wants to be close to that person, because that person helped change that horse.
So, I mean, it's an unspoken language of caregiving.
Totally.
And the sooner that becomes the norm, the better for everyone.
I agree.
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years?
Well, if you'd asked me this, Luke, like 6 months ago, I might have had a different answer. I would have been very, very upbeat about it. But now I feel like I'm even more upbeat, because quite honestly, between me getting to talk to viewers every night, my wife being able to do the same thing, you guys, people are watching now even more. Now with like the president saying some of the things he's saying, I actually see us basically skyrocketing into a more normal position of healthcare. And quite honestly, if some of the things fall the way they could fall over the next 6 months to a year, I mean, we very easily in the next 5 years could see chiropractic become, again, like portal of entry. I mean, we're primary care physicians, obviously, so people don't need a referral to come to us, but it's still not in their mind yet that they come to. I mean, people don't, they're still, the majority of the public doesn't even know we're primary care physicians. Obviously, that's still an educational point, but we're getting to the point where I think people are starting to look. People are tired of being on medications. Now we have like the whole vaccination thing. I mean, how did you ever think that like a giant chunk of the population would be like pushing back against the COVID-19 vaccine? Now, obviously, still a lot are going to end up getting it, but there's people pushing back that would not have pushed back just 8 weeks ago. And so just the mindset that they've taken to push back on this means that they're now willing to look in a different angle or a different viewpoint. This is our time to capture their minds and show them what real healthcare is. So I think no matter what we turn into in the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, this is our moment in the next, say, 6 months to a couple of years to really, really change their viewpoint and capture a giant chunk of the American market and show them what healthcare is. And again, with things like, shows like yours, shows like mine and other docs going live and things like that, this is the time, man. We have an opportunity to blow this thing up and really, really change the world. So that's what I'm hoping for.
And I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because our innate is highly tuned, and we're not per se anti anything, but we are pro health. Right. And we are pro-choice, and we are pro-decision. And to say that those people 8 weeks ago were anti-vaxxers isn't true. Right. They are just pro-choice, they're pro-health, and they're pro-positive outcome, and they're they're learning a great deal right now. Right. So their innate's tuned. Totally. And they're all looking for solutions.
And on top of that, you have millennials right now, which, let me tell you, chiros out there, you don't actually sometimes know what these millennials are thinking, because quite honestly, and I'm just as guilty of this as anybody, is we've kind of grouped this millennials term into like they're dumb and stupid. They're really not. They're actually very smart. Now they have a different viewpoint than us, but keep in mind, one of the biggest demographics coming for natural health are the millennials, because these folks want to feel good. They want to feel better. Some of these apps out there, and I'll be honest with you, some of these apps I still don't even know how to play with, like the TikToks of the world and the WhatsApp or the Snapchat and stuff like I still suck at those and I can be better. But millennials want to feel good. They actually look into natural healthcare. They look into alternative. Those are the ones who are going to the Whole Foods and buying kombucha and buying fermentation, everything else. Kairos, even if you don't agree with kombucha and fermentation, all this different stuff out there, guess what? That's your market. Those people are looking for you. So a combination of what we just talked about, plus the millennials, do not forget about that demographic. That is going to be a gigantic chiropractic demographic.
Amen.
So I'm going to ask a surprise question here, not on the script, because I don't get to talk to you that often. And I just want to, I know Jim's dying to know the answer to this too.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, how the hell do you get so many views on your Facebook Live videos? If it's a secret, that's okay. But
I think it's a combination of many things. I learned a long time ago this thing about intention. And I learned about it through chiropractic originally. And okay, I'm gonna blow everything up here because some chiros know this, some chiros don't. And sometimes you can take two different patients, or I'm sorry, you can take the same patient, two different doctors. One doctor gets a great adjustment and gets the person to feel better. The other person does the same damn adjustment and doesn't get the same results. And they're like, why? Keep in mind, there's a thing called intention. Meaning when I'm standing here, I want the world to know about chiropractic right now. I want everyone watching this to go out and be amazing chiropractors. So it's a combination of intention of just me solely focused on talking to everyone out there and saying, guys, go out there, men and women of chiropractic, you're all amazing people. Go out there and win the world over and teach them what real healthcare is. Now, on top of that, it's also been 2 years of doing this. I mean, when you look back at it, obviously everyone's like, oh, it's skyrocketed. It's skyrocketed in the last 2 months. It totally has. Totally agree. But I can probably show you right now my first ever video, which was like 2+ years ago, which completely sucked. It was horrible. So it's like the 2+ year overnight success. And then on top of that, there's a little bit of marketing. I mean, I basically go, okay, you have to talk about stuff that's now. I mean, even if you're a chiropractor and say this COVID-19 thing ends, which it was going to end at some point, right? So a year or two from now, you want to preach chiropractic and you want to get people and you want to help people. Well, you better take something that's resonating with the public right now, and you better find a way to communicate that to those people. I had an amazing doctor in chiropractic school, Palmer, Florida, Dr. Michael Shreve, who is he's an upper cervical doc. I think he still practices, but he also teaches. And he's one of the rare teachers at Palmer that I love because he was still into the philosophy. He was a green book guy. Like I still go back at him and chat with him. In the beginning, he was like that hard ass doctor who was like, oh God, he's going to teach us about this. But I go back to him now because he really is principled in chiropractic. But he told us, and I took this to heart, that if you're going to be out in the public, you better be able to take any subject on the face of planet Earth and be able to, within like 5 to 10 seconds, turn that into educating in chiropractic. And I remember going through an exercise, which this exercise in class, because I mean, obviously we have like 11 weeks per quarter, whatever it is. I was hoping this class would have gone like 1 or 2 weeks because I thought it was one of the most important courses or one of the most important exercises in this class we could do, which was he threw a topic at you and you had to like take it and turn that into talking about chiropractic. And it could have been anything from like, walking outside and a bird flies by you to a piece of garbage flies by to, it's overcast today. Like we're not talking about like healthcare related topics. We're talking about any topic, how do you turn that into educating on chiropractic? And so I took that and I said, okay, what is going on in the world today, right? We have something obviously right now, but a year from now, when it's not COVID-19 or a pandemic, how do you take today's subject in the news or today's subject anywhere, something that people are focused on, and how do you turn that into chiropractic? Because that's just backdooring chiropractic. That's where you take something, you start with it, and then you got their attention. Now slide in how you want to help them heal. And I mean, honestly, a couple of those things, and that's really just how you build up viewers. And then you just be honest and truthful. I mean, if you are honest and truthful with your audience, they will always come in and you will be able to help them any way possible. And at the end of the day, by the way, yes, as much as I love marketing, as much as I love getting viewers and I want it to skyrocket even more, my sole intention and purpose behind this whole thing is, I know there's thousands of people behind that camera at given times. I want to help you learn how to help your body heal the best way possible. That's really what it's ultimately about.
Well, we have one more question for you.
Okay.
But before we get to that, I just want to say you're a brilliant chiropractor and you're a brilliant communicator and a brilliant marketer. So thank you for sharing your wisdom of how you took yourself to where you were 2.5 years ago, making a video that you learned a lot from, to where you are today, where you continuously keep on learning and keep on, as I call it, connecting the dots. And you're basically laying out the format for people to build an audience and to learn from you and to be consistent. And I congratulate you on your consistency. I congratulate you on your topics of choice that you pick and how you've been able to build the audience, but also how you've been able to become a chiropractor with a voice.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys. And I appreciate all that you do as well, because you're a giant voice in this whole thing.
What a coincidence. I think Chiro Hustle is about 2.5 years old.
Jim and I spend a few times around at different seminars and conferences. So yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long, Jim. But like, I remember being in Vegas with you and like, oh man, like it seems like not far away, but it was a year or two away.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about you personally. What are some books you're reading, podcasts you listen to, and hobbies that you do in your free time?
Oh, good questions.
If you have any free time.
Good question. So books that I'm reading right now, I am reading Triggered, which is by Donald Trump Jr. I'm one of those people that has like, 3 or 4 books that are like I have to go to each one and check stuff out, like 3 to 4 books. So I'm reading that one. Let's see what I'm reading, a little bit of Weston A. Price stuff right now, which is just nutritional stuff. I try to keep in that. I try to keep in something chiropractic and something nutrition as often as I possibly can throughout the week, just because it's keeping it fresh in my mind, because I believe that's how you also consciously evolve as well. And then I just bought, what did I just buy? I bought a book today. I bought Dr. Mikovitz's plague book. So that's on the way. That will be starting to be read. What do I do in my free time? I try to spend as much time with obviously family as possible. That can be difficult when you are running a practice. And my wife and I are both in the situation because she does live streams as well. And so I have a 6-year-old daughter. We do that. We hang with her. We're kind of on an island. I mean, we have friends, but it's in a weird situation. I don't know if you guys are the same, but we're so connected with our chiropractic and nutrition communities that like, I don't necessarily have best friends who are in my local area. My best friends are usually like in a different state, so I have to travel to see them. So we tend to be kind of on an island here by ourselves. So we spend a lot of time with each other, doing that kind of thing. Some of the things that I like doing, I actually really am kind of a political nerd. I mean, I like to follow what's going on and what's happening. You're seeing on the shows in the evenings, kind of what my hobbies are like. Those are the things that kind of fascinate me. And probably last but not least, I'm a bit of a cigar junkie. So I do like cigars. I have a dog who's in the backyard. He likes to play. You can probably hear him right now. And Yeah, I mean, I will be honest with you. I like a very simple life, not boring life, but just I don't honestly. I can go out in my backyard, sit down, hang out with a cigar, maybe a book, a notebook. I'm writing notes, and if I have a garden and some flowers, like I'm kind of good with that. A beach is cool, but being around my family, those are things that make my life happy.
And what podcasts do you like?
Oh, podcasts. So my latest ones that I've been listening to are Russell Brunson's his marketing podcast. I'm a Russell Brunson like junkie. I do listen to Cardone Zone. I listen to Robert Scott Bell and John B. Wells. So they're both natural health but slash politics. And then a couple business ones. I kind of flip back and forth on business ones. For example, like Vaynerchuk, I listen to him all the time. It's kind of whatever is updated in my podcast section, but that changes in and out all the time. But those are the most recent ones I've been listening to.
So last question for you.
Yeah.
Tacos or pizza?
Oh, pizza by far. I'm a Northeastern boy. I'm from New York and I lived in Boston. So actually tacos, like it's so funny being in Florida. My wife's from Miami. So like if you asked her, but she's also Italian, so she might be pizza too. So, but to me, like tacos, I'm like, it's so funny down here. Everyone loves tacos, like Taco Tuesday. And I'm like, doesn't really do anything for me. I'm like, but if you tell me there's like a New York pizzeria around the corner, like that I could hit up.
I'm not much for tacos either.
I'm an outcast down here.
So what are some websites or social media links where people can learn more about you?
Yeah, so go to my Facebook personal page. I learned a long time ago that, and I actually learned this mostly from Dr. Ed Osborne, was I actually could get more traction on my personal page than I could on my Facebook business page, my public pages, because I have public pages too, Revolution Network and Dr. Jason Dean, but I get the most traction on the personal page, which is the most followers. That's that one. And then you can go to my website, which is going to be changing, but it's currently revolutionnetwork.live, which is what my website is. And you can find all the podcasts there, blogs and everything else. And then that's going to be turning into a full-blown network that I'm working on right now and having done. So in case social media goes down, that's where you would actually find it. And the live streams would go there as well.
The link's not going to change though, is it?
The links probably shouldn't change. Even if it does, I'll have that one going to it. So you can still go to that.
Well, cool. That wraps up the episode.
Awesome. Guys, I appreciate you having me on. You guys are doing an amazing job. I would love to just acknowledge you guys for being consistent, obviously. And you're in a profession that's, there's so many of us out there, but not everybody is always watching amongst the 60,000. So I really appreciate you guys kind of just like hammering it all the time. And at the end of the day, when we win this thing, you guys are going to be the ones that looked at to help catapult this whole thing. So I appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
appreciate
brother.
You too.
Well, we want you to have a good rest of your evening with your wife and daughter and dog.
All right. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Next time.
Have a good one, guys.